This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. Before I get into the video about by the 2030s, how we're going to see massive food shortages and severe cold, because remember, it goes from global warming to the ice age and all over the place. And we're not supposed to be suspicious. This is just naturally occurring because of smoke coming out of smokestacks at factories and cow farts. Of course, that is not the truth. The truth is we know exactly what they're doing. And the reason that they tell us that this is going to happen is because they're doing it and planning it. That's why. So people are aware and think it's actually happening for a different reason other than the fact that this is all done by design and they're telling you that they're doing it. So I'll get into it in a second. I want everyone out there to know I tried to do a video. I'm aware of what's going on over in Israel. Excuse me. Can't even say the word. I tried for a few hours to get my video up over here on this channel. I was not able to get it uploaded past the algorithm, so I put it up exclusively on the website, uprisingrevival.com. And I couldn't take any more time. Sometimes I try to take articles out, switch things around to get past the algorithm. If it takes over a few hours to do it, it's just not worth trying anymore. It pretty much means that they hear what I'm saying in the video and I'm not allowed to say it. Because even when I take pictures out, if I take out news article stories, like they have words like war, etc., usually I try to do that so that the algorithm doesn't pick up the topic. But they hear the talking point, they hear whom I'm speaking of, which is Israel, excuse me, Gesundheit. So I can't talk about it here. It's just the way it is. That's what the website's for. It's uncensored content. It's topics they don't want you to hear about, things they don't want you to question. So the website is $2.99 a month. Some people aren't familiar with the website and why it's $2.99 a month. It keeps trolls out. Of course, it keeps the website running smoothly and is unlimited, gives me unlimited room to upload as much content as I want, which I do. I'm putting my entire archive of videos, which is thousands of videos that I've done over the years, even though I'm a brand new YouTuber. Over there, uncensored, of course, is the main thing, but the forum itself is worth it. So that video is up over there. If you didn't notice, I tried to put up a video from the website today on my old channel, and it got a strike for misinfo. Of course, it was actually a video showing the ridiculous test that they made me take they're making us take tests to get rid of warning strikes. And all it is an indoctrination about what you can and cannot say. And that was in regard to the magic potion. So that video has been available on the website. I wanted people to be able to see it on YouTube, how ridiculous it is. And of course, I got a strike in like an hour on the video. Why? Well, who's surprised, right? So I can't even upload on that channel now for a week. So obviously, struggling to get these types of videos up about Israel. So again, that's over on the website. I highly recommend everybody join. Plus, there's a lot of good interaction over there. And this video I'm about to cover, the topic, I found out over on the website because people are sharing it in the forum. Everybody shares information over there. And I see all the information that's being shared, and I just, I cover some of the topics that I see if it interests me and it's something that I want to cover as far as predictive programming and, of course, getting people's brains to start thinking of how in the world, like this article, how in the world scientists and researchers would know that in the 2030s we're going to see severe cold and food shortages. Because I was pretty sure like all I hear about nowadays is global warming, right? Because that's all we hear. Now, in the 70s, they were talking about ice ages with the climate, and then they dropped that for a while because, well, they couldn't manipulate people the way they can now. So, of course, they brought it back, right? And, of course, when you have stupider people, then you could convince them of all this stuff. And the more technology, of course, there is, the easier it is to convince and deceive. So now we're at a point where this past year, what was the topics I was covering with the climate agenda, how we constantly were hearing about how it was so hot. Oh boy, it's the hottest it's ever been. Hottest on record, right? As if everybody has some record book to go back and check history about how hot it is, right? All you do is just use your memory, of course, unless you've got saved every single, newscast for the last 20 years or newspaper, et cetera. Of course not. So they just say this stuff. And then, of course, even if you did have that and held them accountable, they don't take accountability. So now they're telling us, after telling us of this summer of heat, it's the hottest of all time, that we're also going to have the coldest weather ever. And of course, that'll be going along with food shortages, right? The 2030s to see severe cold and food shortages as grand solar minimum takes over, warn solar researchers. How you get a job as a solar researcher? Well, you got to be in the system, right? If you're a deceiver and a liar, then you could be a solar researcher, as long as you, of course, give the agenda that they want you to give, which is telling everybody that it's going to be hotter than ever and it's going to be colder than ever, right? Thus, of course, the climate deception. And this, of course, ties into the food shortages. It ties into HARP. It ties into weather manipulation. And, of course, it ties into enslavement because that's what this is all about. So, and remember, while we're going to have these ice ages that they're going to create. Remember, there's been tons of predictive programming over the year, Day After Tomorrow. You could just Google the Ice Age type movies, even the Ice Age movies that they've indoctrinated young kids with. There's like cartoons, Pixar, I think, etc., constantly telling us of a coming ice age. Of course, this isn't because a coming ice age is going to come scientifically. It's because they're going to create one. And they're telling you that it's coming from science because if they don't, you might get suspicious about the weather manipulation and the weather control that the government has. But of course, they don't want you to think like that. So they, of course, hide and shadow ban that type of stuff and tell you that those people are conspiracy nuts. And they are so hell-bent on silencing them that for whatever reason, people actually believe what the government tells you about what's really going on when they won't even allow a different voice to tell you what's going on because they're afraid, because this stuff's all documented. They have patents on these things, weather manipulation, weather control. And of course, then they use sentences like you can't control the weather, Mother Nature, et cetera, when it comes to the weather and predicting the weather, et cetera, even though they predict this stuff, right? How do they know these hurricanes are going to happen beforehand when they happen? Well, they know because they're the ones steering it. Like that video clip that I played for you, that documentary from Disney back in the 70s and 60s that talked about how they could steer weather. They could steer hurricanes away from the shore, of course, to help prevent natural disasters, right? Sounds like a good idea. Well, they don't want you to know about that documentary because now they actually steer them to the shores so they could destroy your home and wash you out and send you into a FEMA concentration camp. So an expert in energy particles and solar flares once warned that between the years of 2020 and 2053, the world would enter a grand solar minimum, resulting in extreme cold, not warming like the media claims, as well as widespread food shortages. So both agendas tie into the food shortage, which of course is done by design, because it's ultimately if you control the food and you control the water, you control the people. That's basic common sense, right? I always think about Hansel and Gretel. And I always tell that to people like that, especially when I see like they recently made the horror movie on Hansel and Gretel. I did a video on that a while back. It's a nursery rhyme, right? Of course, it's about witches, or a nursery tale. And it's very, very, it's something I often think about with today's world, how I feel like they're Hansel and Greteling our society. They stuff everybody with all of this no nutrients, with just food, right? It's easy to get McDonald's, easy to get all this crap, and the majority of people go and they eat this stuff that's not really food, right? So they take it for granted. Hundreds of years ago, people were, your whole day was focused around what you were going to eat and how you're going to have water. You can watch some of these survival shows like that show Alone. Have you ever seen that? I don't know what channel it's on, but it's a show where they go out there with nothing except a couple of tools. They have to survive. Whoever survives the longest out in the middle of nowhere, like Nova Scotia or British Columbia, wins money or et cetera. And your whole day is, this is how people used to live. It was all focused on that, right? There was a reason, you had reason and things to do every day. Now everybody's just distracted with technology, nonsensical things, ridiculous issues. They're spoiled. And I think this was all obviously done by design, which of course it was, because the second that people realize, wait a minute, there's no food anymore. Well, nobody knows how to farm. And the people who do know how to farm are aware of what they've done with the dirt, with Monsanto, what they're doing with the chemtrails from the sky. Many farmers obviously have sold out to these big corporations because they've given them more money to burn or not farm their crops. And then we see Bill Gates, et cetera, all these people buying up all the farmland. So they want to control the food supply as much as they can while they're giving people food and, almost in excess, obviously, right? Giving people food in excess, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I mean, people didn't even eat like this 100 years ago with the amount of food, snacks, et cetera, right? So they're plumping everybody up. And when they pull the rug out underneath everybody's feet, these people who are just so used to eating so much aren't going to know what to do, right? They're going to be starving to death, okay? They're going to be craving nutrients, but not nutrients. They're going to be craving, sugars and things like that because to them, they don't realize why they're always hungry. It's because they don't get any real nutrients, so they're eating. Thus, we have such a fat society of people, right, walking around, and you could identify a lot of them by, who they are or what their stance is on things going on in the world by how they look, but these people are going to go fanatical. They're going to go frantic when this stuff happens. And it's going to happen. They've been telling us about food shortages, but they don't need to tell us. We all see the actual stuff. Supply chain shortages, how they're telling and paying off farmers not to grow, how they're buying up all our farmland, right? So everybody is going to have nothing. No one's going to know how to do anything because we have a dumbed down society. And even the ones who do, remember I covered this, how they're going to have community farming. How if you grow in your backyard, well, it's going to be, they want you to register that as a farm. So it's a community farm. So when crap hits the fan, say that you've been growing all this stuff on your own, you're supposed to give it to the psychotic liberal who took away all our rights. Right? You're supposed to give it to this guy or that guy. You're supposed to give it to the fudge packers. And if you don't, you're a hateful bigot. So all these things are designed this way so that they have full control. So they're going to use the weather, of course, on top of the enslavement process where you're locked in your home in the winter because it's so cold out. They're going to tell you how often you can put the heat on, right? You're not allowed, remember, and on top of that, if people aren't suspicious, they're like, oh, they're not going to do that. Oh, no, they're also telling you that you can't have a wood-burning stove in your home. So if you want to, independently heat your home on your own, you can't because it's going to affect the climate. So everything ties back into the climate agenda, how they're going to take our food away, how they're going to freeze us out, how they're going to sweat us out. And nobody's suspicious, of course, because you can't predict Mother Nature, right? You can't predict the weather, they tell us. So they say the pandemic, whatever that was, did not result in much colder temperatures on planet Earth. It did create worldwide food shortages and supply chain problems, as well as lockdowns and the first introduction into the new normal, as they're calling it, which several countries have already made permanent, right? Nobody thinks that this was organized, of course. You have the communists here in America, the people who call themselves Democrats, who will support anything the government does, won't question it because they're just so slow in the brain, which they don't have. So we should just say slow in the feces because that's what they have, feces for brains. These people just, they don't see, when you read a paragraph like that, a ding, ding, ding should go off in your head, right? You hear these people talking about resetting the world, great resets, etc. They tell you how, what it did happen is that an event that occurred did create food shortages and supply chain problems. So tie that in with the fact it's going to be cold and you won't be able to farm, or it'll be too hot and there'll be droughts, so you won't be able to farm. Don't be suspicious about any of this stuff. It's the new normal. Yeah, the new normal is called enslavement. And it's being done by Republicans and Democrats around the world because they're really globalists. Okay? So we should stop fighting over, political colors and who supports this as colors. I mean, the blue or the red, all this nonsense. I mean, people are literally like I said, they take adults and they turn them into kids where they're using color coding. That's how stupid they expect people. I mean, that's how dumb they are. They're like, I'm blue. I'm going to a blue state. I'm going to a red state. I'm 3 years old. I can't stand up and fight against this because that's hateful and mean and violent. Right? Oh, right. Have you noticed how they've weakened you and weakened our society? So the article goes on to say the worst is yet to come. A 2019 interview with award-winning Canadian journalist Stuart McNish warned with great seriousness that ever since 2015, how convenient, right around when Agenda 2030 came out, solar activity has been decreasing in a way that has only ever been seen during a grand solar minimum, the last of which occurred during the Maunder minimum 400 years ago, whatever this stuff that they make up is. Citing research from NASA, of course. I mean, right. And would anybody be suspicious why, even though we know NASA's not really floating out in space, trying to get us to space, we know it's a laundering front. Well, can anybody say why NASA would have anything to do with the weather? Oh, right. NASA has to do with that too now, right? Because, they know that term NASA, a lot of the zombies out there, think of it as a trusted, smart people, right? So let's just link all these agendas into that too. Even though it couldn't be further from the truth what they actually do and what NASA's really for. But it goes on to say the data and evidence is there. It is just that nobody with official status is talking about it. And this is only just the beginning of this grand solar minimum period, the worst of which is yet to come. Between cycle 25 and 11 years of cycle 26, and between cycle 26 and 27 will be the coldest period on Earth, and we will feel it through a lack of vegetation. Right. So by design, of course. So if you think of everything and you go back to the food and how Kissinger and all these people have said it openly for years. Control the food, control the people, right? Because people will not be able to eat. People will lose their minds to that food. People don't realize that they need food. That's how dumb it is. And let's be real. People don't realize they need food and water to live because that's how much the government and corporations have handed people this caveat. This food. They take it for granted. They take it for granted. When it's not there, these people are going to lose their minds and they're going to do whatever they're told to have food rations. And it's going to be rations, of course. And these people will do whatever. They will be compliant. They will kill for food. They will kill people like us to take our food. Okay? Little do they know that we could, we're all prepared for what's coming and we're prepared for them as well. We're not sitting here going, look, we got food. And then the crap hits the fan, not being prepared for these zombies to think that our food is theirs and it belongs to them, even though they're the ones who have gotten us into this mess by enabling this psychotic government to do what they're doing. So they want you to know the worst is yet to come. They want you to know there's going to be massive food shortages. They want you to know that we're going to flip from global warming to an ice age really fast. And they don't want you to ask questions about it. You're supposed to trust in the science, the made up stuff, just like we were supposed to trust in the science a few years ago, right? This made up stuff that they do. They're creating all of this stuff and they're telling us there's nothing that can be done because there's nothing that can be done except, of course, lock ourselves in our home, right? And while they talk about food shortages, by the way, and they tell us that we're going to have food shortages, they tell us that we also should not have animals. We shouldn't eat animals anymore. We shouldn't have meat. So that makes sense, right? Plus, there won't be vegetation because it'll be freezing cold or it'll be extremely hot, right? So they're just going to give us their Soylent Green product, right? Remember Soylent Green? I've covered it a million times. It's people. Yeah. Here, have our government bisque. We made you a little biscuit here. Here you go. From the government. It's a cracker. Yeah, what's in it? Don't worry about it. It's plant-based. Oh, yeah? Oh, it's human. Okay, got it. Yum, yum. Eat up. Get Kuru, have a great time. That's where we're headed, folks. The 2030s, severe cold and food shortages. No one's suspicious yet of the government at this point as of October 2023. Maybe it's time to start becoming suspicious. They're telling you there's going to be food shortages. We see food shortages, and they're just conditioning people. Because the easiest form of mind control is repetition, right? And then when they desensitize people through the repetition, everybody just shrugs their shoulders and goes, all right, yeah, well, since the outbreak, nothing's functioning anymore. They're just shutting everything down and sabotaging everything and blaming it on the boogeymen, like they always do. People need to wake up and wake up fast. Again, the video on Israel is over on the website. I hope more people will join. I understand nobody wants to pay for a website. I totally understand that. I'm just doing the best that I can to get content up where I can get it up and get, like-minded people in the same place so that we could all obviously, when crap hits the fan, hopefully, be able to network with one another because we're going to need to band together. So the website, the forum, the videos, they're all exclusive over there on the website. I hope more people will join. It's the price of half a gallon of gas for a month's worth of content, a month's worth of, you could be on the forum for hours. It's very, very active. It's not the type of forum where, somebody posts once a week or something. Every couple of minutes, there's brand new stuff being put up. Pretty much every minute, if you go through all the categories, there's tons of categories, whatever interests you. If you want to talk about faith, if you're new to all this stuff, there's areas on there you can learn just the basics, the signs and the symbols. If you want to learn about the climate agenda, if you want to learn about the shape of the earth or debate about it, all that stuff is over there. So hopefully more people will join. It's uprisingrevival.com. It is linked below. And please make sure you sub to my backup channels as well. Like I mentioned earlier, the strike I got doesn't really help matters, even though those are channels that are already shadow banned. But got to keep building these channels out, so I need your help. So please make sure you sub to those as well. I appreciate all of you. Hope you're doing well. God bless you as always, and your families.